Hello and welcome to Awaken Empower TV. I'm your host, Ethann Fox. I'm here with my co-host today, Micheila Sheldan, who is going to be with me for the next couple of hours as we talk about some of the incredible vibrational changes happening in the world, and we'll also have a chance to speak with higher guidance to ask some questions. So welcome back to the show. It's been a little while, I think, since we've been together.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
No, it's my pleasure. And so what have you been up to since the last time?
Oh, nothing. Let's see. I've been busy with a lot of clients. I've been on quite a number of live shows that I've done in the last month or so. So keeping up with all of that and the normal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I know that you've been writing your book for probably about a year now, right?
It's probably been about 6 months.
Oh, okay. Has it only been 6 months? Okay.
Yeah, not quite a year.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be, I guess, now that I think about it, I started it in April. So it'll be a year in April.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how's that coming along?
Up and down. Mm-hmm. And I get frustrated sometimes because I will have this wave of just information pour through me. And it's like I can't stop it. It just wells up in me, and I get this indication that I have to sit down and start writing. And I actually had a really funny thing happen several weeks ago. I get so busy sometimes. I have 2 kids, and I'm running around doing things. And I didn't channel that morning. And usually when I wake up, when I know this book is coming through me, every morning I sit down and I dump into the laptop. Well, that morning in particular, I was just very busy. So I got in the car and started driving to my destination, and it was just knocking at me that I knew it needed to come out. And I've never done this before, but I hit the record button on my iPhone, and as I was driving, don't try this at home, I was channeling information for the book into my iPhone. And then when I got home, I transcribed it into the laptop. But I do go through periods of time where the book doesn't come. And I've asked a million times because I get really frustrated and I always think I'm doing something wrong. Why is this book not coming? And I continuously am told that it is coming in alignment with the planetary energies. And I have been getting that message for a lot of light workers, actually lately as well. And I'm not sure if we talked about this last time, but I have a lot of just light workers, healers, teachers who I attract as clients. And they're all doing amazing things in the world. But so many of them have experienced what I've experienced with this book, where things are going really great and all of a sudden, boom, they hit this roadblock. And I have been told that there's so many that have come in this time that have signed up or are on assignment to assist with this splitting of the timelines that we've talked about a lot between the 3rd and the 5th dimensions. And right now, a lot of light workers are hitting that roadblock, and they almost call it a holding pattern. There's a holding pattern with a lot of that work because the consciousness isn't ready to receive it yet. And we have to go through a series of alignments before the human consciousness is ready for the work that we came here to put into the world. So I always try to have patience when that happens because it's not about my plan. It's about, the higher consciousness. So.
Yeah, I've been, as you know, I talked to a lot of gifted people around the world too, a lot of light workers who don't know what their path is as well. And I help them to find their purpose and manifest that. And I've been noticing that a lot too. A lot of them they feel very stuck.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're here for, or what they need to do. And that's been an area of struggle for quite a few of them that they're learning to overcome slowly, but it has been a problem.
Right. I feel like there are, and we know the Dolores Cannon and, the 3 waves of volunteers. I do feel like there is this group of, I guess I can put my clients into these couple different groups where some of them, they've been doing this for a very long time. They've been awakened for a very long time. They know they have something bigger to do in the world, and it's been manifesting for them. But now all of a sudden they've hit that roadblock. And the guides and collectives that I work with have been saying this is because we are changing our structure right now, which is a big deal. And in addition to that, there has been kind of this holding pattern where we're shifting from these individually focused assignments. And the way that we did that in the third dimension is so different to how we'll do it in the fifth dimension. And you can even think of it as an energy healer, you know, how maybe you might have been working with individuals, you know, on healing. And now you're moving into a more collective space where it's going to change and adapt to where we are. So a lot of people are struggling with that. But I also notice all of a sudden I have this big flurry of people who know they are here to do something bigger, but they don't know what it is. So they're not in that realm of, you know, having done it for so many years and now it's changing. They just know there's something bigger here for them to do, and they're just starting to get that inkling. So I'm seeing that a lot as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what are some of the interesting things you've written recently?
Oh, well, I did have an interesting channel for my book about 2 days ago. And I read it a couple times. And I'll back up and say, some of you who are watching might know I do these Lightworker Inner Circle programs, and they're channeled classes where the guides are stepping in and they're working with healing energies to bridge us into the fifth dimension. And what's been really interesting in the Lightworker Inner Circle 2 program that I've been doing is they're addressing imprinted energy and programming that has affected our structure. And so we're going through this transition now to get rid of all this programming so that we can work with the new structure that we're given. And I'll give you some examples because I think it's been pretty fascinating. They pick a concept and they talk about how that concept has been portrayed in society in such a way that we've defined ourselves as less than who we are. So some of the concepts they've brought forward have been freedom, for example. Just the concept of freedom. When you think about freedom, you know, what are the images that come into your mind? You know, we think about borders and wars that have been fought here, you know, for our freedom, when really that's not the definition of freedom that we are supposed to be living up to. And think about how we've defined ourselves just beneath that subconscious layer by that definition of freedom. And these are things you don't even think about, you know, when you're working on yourself and you're going through your own ascension process. We always make it so personal. You know, I did this to this person, or I showed up this way, when really we forget about all that stuff that has been programmed into us that we don't even consider. So along those lines, I channeled a chapter about justice. In similar situation where they're, you know, talking about justice in terms of we think that justice means the energy has to be served in a mirror format, right? If somebody takes a leg, you take a leg back, right? There's consequences, and that's what justice is. And there's this concept of justice that is holding us in a resistant pattern. And this is, I think this is going to be a little controversial for some of your listening audience, because we know there are families that are doing things on the planet, right? And we're not too happy about that. And those families are directly addressed in this chapter. So just to back up again, there is an underlying theme in my book about the reptilian race, and specifically the race that is within the core of Mother Earth. And they first talk about how some of these families have been genetically predisposed to connecting to those energies. I mean, we all have genetic predisposition to some race, right? We don't just float out there, you know, randomly. We do hold these connections. And these families in particular held a very specific DNA genetic link that was turned on. And it was because of the close proximity of these beings within our planet. They talk a lot about electromagnetic connections and how we electromagnetically connect to each other. And when that reptilian race took up home within the core of our Earth, those genes were turned on, because that that vibration, that frequency was in such close proximity. And we want to bring justice, right, with a lot of the activities that have gone on. And interestingly enough, they said there's a concept on your planet that there's some evil reptilian being that's holding meetings with these families and telling them what to do. And there's this evil plan, right, about how it should all take place. And they say, no, that's not the case at all. What's really going on is there's an underlying frequency, and that frequency is electromagnetically connecting all of us through Earth and through each other. And that's how this frequency is manipulating our energy, and we become the ones that carry out the things that are happening on the planet, right? Not saying we, you, me, and blaming anyone out there. I'm just saying that as a consciousness, this is a part of who we are. You are in me and I am in you. And they say this in the chapter. These people, right, these families, these reptilian beings, we're kind of all one in this consciousness. In order to unravel all of that and see things changed here, we're going to have to look at it energetically, and we have to let go of these ideas of justice, right? Which is a hard thing to think about. I know, and that might make some people out there angry. Justice should be served. Well, when justice is served and we think of it energetically and we've accepted that as a program into ourselves, we embody that lower vibration, and we are very easily manipulated and our programs are taken offline. And that's how I think a lot of this stuff is manifesting on the planet. So that was an interesting chapter that I didn't expect. And I actually read it a couple of times because I wasn't sure I agreed with it at first. But I understand fully now what they're saying. And it's tied in with some previous chapters too, that I should talk about, just regarding what's going on the planet and how our structures are changing, because we are really in a very important transitional time on the planet. And I think it's about to raise the bar in the spring months. I keep hearing about February and March being very significant on the planet, and an exponential raise in consciousness. I channeled a new group, a new consciousness just recently, called the Ancients. And they're a group of Mayan ancients who are very connected to Earth and are bringing in some information into the book about our connections to Earth. We know she's a living, breathing being, but oftentimes we don't consider that she's a part of us as well, and that our structures are meant to be one. And that's where we're headed. And that's why we're walking this difficult road, is our internal structures are reorganizing and expanding. Her structure, as we've talked about many times, has recently undergone these transitions and these alignments, through these alignments, I should say. And now in February and March, we're both going to be triggered. The planetary structure as well as our own. And I've been hearing about this for a long time, that we were both going to be hit, our singular beings as well as the planet, but I didn't quite understand why. And now with this new consciousness coming in, they've explained it quite simply to me. And that is that we're reconnecting to Earth. Our structure, as we talk about oneness, we have to re-embody that one connection between her structure and ours. It's like we root that in, we ground that in, and we become integrated with her and she with us again. And that's what this is all about.
I did this show recently with Susie Hansen. I think you watched that, right? And she talks about how the Greys showed her a future version of the Earth where human beings are very much connected and interacting with the plants and trees and everything. So almost as if we're one consciousness. Obviously, we are already one consciousness, but in that reality, there was an actual conscious participation with humans and and the environment. So sounds like maybe this shift in February, March is maybe taking us a step toward something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What they talked about, which I find interesting, is I had a chapter with them start off with concrete and buildings, and I know we look around us sometimes and we think, what have we done to her? The power lines, the power grids, the concrete, all these things. How would we possibly reverse this? And actually, someone asked me a question on a live call last month, and she said, "Can she breathe? Can Mother Gaia breathe?" And this consciousness, the ancients said that we have to consider again that everything is energy, and we so tune into the physical part. We have become disconnected with her. We have become disassociated with her. And through that disconnection and that disassociation, we've created that concrete. That concrete is a mirror image to how we don't join up, right? And we can erase that concrete the same way we made it, which is energetically, by reconnecting with her. And through this process, I think that will happen. So people out there that are really concerned about what are we going to do about all this concrete and these buildings and all this stuff, I think that we like to get the mental body to work, and we try to figure that out. How could we possibly get all of this stuff to heal, when really it's so much easier. As we raise our consciousness and we reconnect to the earth, the way the concrete showed up is the same way the technologies are going to show up to maybe remove the concrete or, make it sustainable. I'm not sure, but I don't think we need to know. I just think we need to work on ourselves. And the more that, this transition takes place, all of that stuff is going to be possible for us.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing a lot of physical manifestations of these changes happening even in the mainstream. Mm-hmm. I saw a TED Talk recently with this inventor who made this, and this is not new technology. Tesla was doing this a long time ago, but it's coming out to the modern mainstream, which I think is pretty incredible. So he was doing a demonstration on stage where he had a television, and he was transmitting the electricity to the TV, to the television remotely. So there was a device plugged into the wall, but the TV didn't actually have to be plugged into anything. So mm-hmm. And he also had several smartphones in his hand, and he walked in front of this transmitter, and all the smartphones also started charging. So he was showing how, we don't actually need to plug in our phones to charge. We can just have these transmitters. Wow. And so really that would eliminate the need for power lines and so on. Which Tesla was already on track to doing that. If it weren't for JP Morgan shutting down the whole project, right. We would have never had to have power lines in the first place. But we're starting to see signs of heading toward a future like that, where we can have a world where they're cleaner, more sustainable, and right. Technologies and so on. So I'm starting to see it all around. There's another technology which someone on our team made me aware of. It's in the UK, I think it's coming out, but it's a replacement for Wi-Fi, which those of us who watch these shows know is very dangerous because it's microwave transmission, and in environments where there are a lot of people living or office buildings, there are so many of those transmissions, not to mention cell towers and smart meters and all of that.
Right.
But there's a technology in the UK where they're using LED lights to actually transmit the internet connection within a space. So you can, for example, in the lighting in the room can actually be transmitting the data as opposed to having a Wi-Fi microwave transmitter doing it. And it actually is much more efficient. It can transmit a lot more data. It's more secure. So we're seeing these sorts of things coming out to the mainstream awareness that are, it's not ultimately where we need to go. I think ultimately if we had scalar technology doing the transmitting, that would be better, because scalar actually tends to be healthier for the body. So instead of just transmitting data, you're actually enhancing the health of the people in the environment. I think in the long run, that's kind of where we will go.
But it's a good sign. You can see where the consciousness is stepping up, right? Just that those technologies are coming in, and they might not be scalar, but they're getting there. It's really a good sign.
Right. Yeah, it's a step. Lots of little steps in a direction. Or I just recently interviewed Brooks Agnew, and his electric truck that actually it's the first commercial electric vehicle that is going to be coming out in 2016. And his market is not the consumer, but really businesses that have pickup trucks or small light duty trucks that for hauling things back and forth. So we're starting to see that step as well. And of course, Tesla's been out for a while with their cars, but they're more high end. But I think we're going to start seeing more and more, more mainstream vehicles like that coming out to the market. But ultimately, we need to replace the battery technology and things like that to get to where we need to be. But it's a step. Even I see small things. I mean, there are lots of little things. Even in our area, to have so many healthier restaurants, raw food restaurants. Yeah. I mean, 10 years ago, you didn't have raw food restaurants hardly anywhere in the country. Now they're all over the place. So it's just a sign that people's consciousness is, increasing. And a lot of the people I've interviewed, I asked them that question about health and diet and so on, and the consensus seems to be overall that as we go forward, more and more people are going to become, switch to more of a live food, healthy vegetarian type of diet as opposed to a meat-based diet. So, I don't know. I mean, I think ultimately that is where it's going to go. Although I'm not saying that it's bad to eat meat or anything. I think everybody has to be where they are. But as consciousness raises, I think it's just an inevitable manifestation of that.
Yeah, I agree.
So there are lots of little signs. I mean, I think as somebody who is more conscious, and a lot of the people who watch this show, it can be very discouraging to live in a world where there are still insane people doing insane things. But if you look at all the little things that are happening, even a show like this, or even the network like this existing, or the expo we put on, or there's so many manifestations of that new world coming into being that I see. So I think it's very encouraging, personally.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I see it all over.
So now you're speaking of there's an eclipse coming up in March. Actually, there's a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse, I believe, in March. And and typically when I see a solar eclipse, it's about a month before you'll start feeling the effects. So you were speaking about February. Yeah. So I think that's true. Even this last eclipse we had in September, a lot of people were starting to be on edge around August, and so we're probably going to see similar things in February. So I think it's a good sign. Although, what do you make of in the midst of all these awakenings happening? And maybe we can channel this question later too. What do you make of events like happened in Paris, which obviously, by all the signs I've seen, seems like it was an orchestrated event and not a terrorist attack, but because it was done on Friday the 13th for one thing, right? Which is an Illuminati date. So
right. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about there. Unfortunate event. And, was it orchestrated? Was it not? I mean, I don't know if that's something that I can talk about, or we can certainly channel about. But going back to the chapter that I was referring to earlier, definitely there's a part of our consciousness that brought that experience into awareness, as much as we don't like to admit that, right? The consciousness here is reflecting back the vibration that we're holding. So I've had a lot of questions. I actually had a couple in one of my recent events about, how are we supposed to feel about this? Because spiritual teachings tell us that, we're supposed to always be happy and hold our vibration high. And then this happens, and what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to ignore it. And I don't agree with the fact that we have to ignore anything. And I don't think the guides or collectives that I work with would acknowledge that either. We have to know, what's going on the planet. And I think we all have to process that, emotionally. We can't resist it. When we resist things like that, we are just creating resistant energy within our own structure. So we are a part of that. We have to, experience that on some level. I guess the biggest part of that experience my guides have been tuning into with messages have been about the creation of it in our energy. We talk about this all the time, how the media, right, keeps replaying it over and over and over again. And when we keep replaying it over and over and over again, when we don't let it go, we don't heal it, we're creating more of it. And that's what those events are really designed to do. They're designed to keep our frequency in a lower vibrational state so that we can continue to create here in that way. So is it important we acknowledge that? Yes. Is it important we process it? We have emotion. We feel the anger. We feel the pain. We feel the sadness. Absolutely. But it doesn't serve us when we hang on to it and we keep analyzing it and talking about it and reliving it over and over again, because we create more of it. And we see it all the time. Right. When these things happen, what usually, a week, 2 later, something else. Right. Now, there's another side of this coin, which is kind of controversial, that my guides have always talked about, which is kind of difficult to say, but they have said that through this transition, and they started talking about this back in February, March of last year, or this year, I should say, that we were going to be walking a difficult transition here on the planet for a number of reasons, and that was going to go on for a couple of years. And so we have to think about the fact that Mother Gaia's ascension codes were triggered. And so because of that, she's got to purge density, and that density has to show up somewhere in physical form. Also, we, as a human consciousness, are purging density. So when you think about it this way, it's actually, I hate to say it's a good sign, but the guides have said that we will see this when the human consciousness begins to awaken. Think about when you first awakened to all of this stuff going on the planet. And I mean, I was angry. I was so upset. I couldn't get over it. I was talking to everybody about it, and that when that happens all over the world, we're expressing energy, and we're holding a vibration, and that has to have a mirror effect, right? So we're probably going to see some more of this as we go through this transition, because we have to consider everything is frequency, and that's how we create this stuff. So I think that, we might see a little more. I don't want to put anyone in a place of fear, but I do think that as we walk this transition, there's going to be some of this that happens just because of those factors. The purging of density, but also the more people that awaken. And there's more anger on the planet.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with a lot of what you said there. And I think, especially holding on to things that have happened in the past, like even now. And of course, to some extent, or to a great extent, the media is perpetuating that. But I mean, here it is, all these years since the whole September 11th, 2001 event happened, and people are still talking about it and mourning it on September 11th every year. Mm-hmm. And I mean, even with the whole French thing, I know everyone has good intentions, but I'm not so sure that putting the French flag on your Facebook profile is the wisest idea.
Right.
Because it's just reinforcing and perpetuating that
sadness,
whole
anger,
whole experience, right? Mm-hmm. Which brings more of it, And I know their intentions are just to show sympathy and compassion, right. But in fact, it's just reinforcing the same negative occurrence, and it's going to cause it to manifest again, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
We have good intentions, but we don't think about awareness, and that continues to be the constant theme in the messages I receive. Our awareness is the tool by which our vibration is taken away from us. So yeah, when you're seeing that French flag over and over again through your news feed, your attention's going right there. And sometimes I don't even think you notice. Right. Again, that subconscious level where that programming takes our structure and turns it against us. That's exactly the way it happens.
Yeah, and the media knows this very well. I mean, they're obviously very, they're very skilled at doing that. And this is why I think to a great extent why we're stuck in this reality and where people suffer and where things like that continue to occur is because they're very skilled at creating that reality. And for the most part, we're not aware enough to notice that they're very skilled at that to avoid it.
Right.
And so when these things happen, we just jump right on the bandwagon and perpetuate it right alongside with them, even though we think we're fighting against it or we're trying to create a better world. Just by participating in it, we're creating
when you think
world.
of everything as consciousness, and if that incident in itself is a consciousness, and the people that created it are a part of that consciousness, when you change your profile picture to a French flag, you are now a part of that consciousness. Even though you're intentionally trying to do something positive, you're pulling the attention of everyone else right into that consciousness. And now that consciousness has power, it has weight, it's got significance on our planet. And that's what's happened here for a good number of years. That's what we're trying to reverse. And, that's what the guides really tune into, is that awareness.
I think we should talk about, because I think a lot of people watch the show, they probably disagree with that viewpoint for one thing,
Yes.
or they don't, or their question may be, well, then what should we do?
Right.
And my opinion would be, instead of focusing on the suffering and the negativity that just happened, redirect your attention toward creating something good in the world.
Right.
That may or may not be related to that event. It could be,
right.
All right, so this happened, and so I'm going to, instead of focusing on that negative, I'm going to take my energy and I'm going to build schools for, children who can't afford to have schools, or I'm going to feed the world, or I'm going to turn it into something positive.
Right.
So instead of putting this energy into, okay, this event happened, people are suffering, I'm going to mourn this suffering with them. I'm instead going to take that and I'm going to put it in a positive direction. So now, not only am I not perpetuating and putting more energy into something negative and creating more of it, but instead I'm going to create something positive in the world, which ultimately will prevent these negative things from happening, right?
I completely agree with that. And actually, the guides and collectives I work with, especially in my private sessions, bring that down to the personal level. So much, even outside of what's going on the planet. And I'll give you an example. I had a woman the other day who was suffering with a really awful health crisis. And she's a healer, and just came into this very difficult times in the hospital. And the guides were really explaining to her about her attention and how our attention becomes so physical, right? When we have something going on in the physical body, we start paying attention to it the same way we pay attention to that the flag, right, on Facebook. It takes our attention away, and we forget about the power, right, of our energy and how we can create and we can overcome these lower vibrations. They were saying the same thing. It's difficult when you're in a situation like that physically, but if you tune in with your creative energy to anything that breaks that cycle of attention in a lower vibrational state, you can shift your energy in incremental ways so that you can begin to bring the healing in, or you can begin to balance to the point where you bring the healing in. It's the same thing on a higher level, with the human consciousness. I feel in that example you gave was perfect. I've had so many live events where people have asked about war. How do we stop war? And we're so, well-intentioned when we want to get involved in all that. And they said, look at the wars in your own household. Look at the wars in your neighborhood with your neighbor. You have to heal that stuff, and you have to work on, creating with your energy in a new direction in order to overcome that. And it's all about the weight and the value of that energy. So I totally agree.
So instead of focusing on the war, focus on creating peace in some way.
Exactly.
World, right?
You have to be the mirror of what you wish to see.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, other thing I've been running into a lot, and we've talked about this and channeled on this in the past, but I've had a number of light worker clients who've been coming to me recently, and one of the things that seems to be an issue that comes up a lot is a lot of them are in relationships that are not exactly supportive of the awakening that's taking place. And so they're finding themselves very unhappy in this relationship. For example, let's just take one relationship, for example. But they've been trying to make it work for a long time because it's, in a way, and this one particular person I'm thinking of, she's from a very traditional culture, and And so she married out of responsibility to the family and respect to the family, and so did the husband. And so now they're in this relationship, and I looked at their astrology charts, and I could tell this is a bad relationship, and it's never going to work. And yet they've stayed in it out of responsibility for the family and their culture and so on. And yet, I think it's taking away their happiness, and I wonder, and in that situation, if it'd be better if they just moved on or get past the unhappiness in some way that the relationship is causing, and not let it be a limitation to their full expression, because I don't think either of them are able to live up to their fullest potential if they are in an unhappy relationship.
Right.
Yeah,
I've got that going on too with a lot of my clients. And the reason for that is, the reason so many relationships are in the spotlight is because of this transition we just went through with our structure. And think of it this way: we've defined ourselves through relationships in the same way we've defined ourselves through freedom and justice and all this stuff, but it's been very third dimensional. So our relationships came to fruition in the third dimension, and our structure can't hold on to that. We can't have relationships like that where we're heading. So they either have to resolve and heal, or they have to change. But oftentimes we have two parties who are on opposite ends of that transition, right? We talk about the splitting of the timelines. We've got one person going down that third dimensional timeline and one person heading towards the fifth. And what do you do? And the guides have given some really interesting information, because first of all, you have to let go of the fear-based programming, right? And that's all that is, because we were told the way we had to show up in relationships, what those had to look like and why. And we defined ourselves through that. So now when we have a relationship that's falling apart, what do? We feel guilty. It's my fault. I'm doing something wrong, right? That's the first level. You got to let go of the guilt. You have to let go of, all of those programs that caused you to define yourself through that guilt. But also, I'll give you a perfect example. And I had one the other day as well, who, woman who is fully awake, ready to just take this journey into the fifth dimension, but her husband is not there. And she's talked to him until she's blue in the face, and he doesn't get it, doesn't understand. And she says, well, what am I to do? Do I divorce him? She was in really a state of panic. First and foremost, they say, never ever make a decision from a place of fear. We know that because our body knows. So the guys were saying, the fact that you're already panicking about saying you need a divorce means the time isn't right. Listen to your body. But you can take small, energetic, incremental steps, right? Which is exactly what you're saying, with your energy in the direction that you want to go. And every time that you do that, you're going to bring in the frequency to attract the new stuff that helps you let go of the rest. And sometimes we just don't have the support or the tools or the information that we need to make those decisions in a moment's notice. We know that we're heading that direction, but maybe the timing's not right. And so they gave her some great advice about small things that she could do that were in line with that fifth dimensional path that would help her to finally come to the place where this would manifest for her the way that it needed to. And we don't know. Sometimes we're going to heal those relationships. Sometimes they're going to change and come along with us, and other times they're not. But that's the way they've been talking about that. It's going on all over the place. Yeah.
So I know that, we both actually been, we're starting to work on a schedule to travel around the world, right? So we've had a lot of people contact us to go to different areas. So what are some of the areas, do you remember, that we've been asked?
California was the first one, Virginia Beach, Chicago, and
I think there's one in Sweden.
Yes,
right?
we do.
Sweden,
We have a good friend in Sweden who is working to get an event together out there. So it's exciting.
Utah? Did you say Utah? I think wasn't there one in Utah somewhere?
There might have been.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So and I think there's somebody in Canada who just contacted me as well.
Oh, okay.
So we'll probably start making a schedule for 2016 very soon, right? Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah. So if any of you are in any areas other than the ones we've mentioned, or if you're in those areas, then get in touch with us as we're preparing our schedule for 2016. We'd love to come out and see you in person. So that's something new on the horizon. What else do you have going on these days?
Oh, let's see. I'm on a fun call on Friday. It is through the Awakening Heart Network.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be doing a live channeling, taking Q&A. That's on Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So if you follow me on Facebook, you can check that out. We're working on the Awakened Powered Expo coming up in March. So that's always a big part of what we have going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've got James Gilliland coming, Laura Eisenhower, Dr. Dream. Who else do we have on the schedule? Oh, Winston Shroud.
Winston. Mm-hmm.
Marina Jacoby. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Who else can you think of anybody else? I'm forgetting at the moment. We're working on a few other interesting ones too that we haven't quite confirmed yet.
Right.
And I know that we're doing our very first Conscious Youth virtual class.
That's right. Yeah, I want to talk about that. Right. Our Conscious Youth program, we've talked about that several times on the show, but we decided to take it remote because we know there are kids out there all over the planet that need this kind of support. So the program is for kids 9 to 18. And we're going to be picking a topic each month and offering a remote link where the kids can call in and interact with each other, share stories, and we'll have a teacher, someone who is there to provide information and support to the kids. So the first meeting we decided would be spirit connections. So we're going to focus on talking to spirit, connecting with spirit. We know there's a lot of kids out there. I've been approached lately by a couple of them that are actually struggling with this, where again, because of the planetary energies, we know this is happening all over, not just with kids, but I've had a couple of kids who have all of a sudden stepped into this new world where they are hearing from spirit, and it's a little scary and quite unknown, and don't necessarily have the support around them to help them through it. So we are going to have this call on Friday, December 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern. There's a Facebook event. I'll be posting it on Meetup, and you can email me for more information. It's Micheila Sheldan at floweroflifecenter.org. And all we ask is that the parents sign a permission waiver so that the kids can participate, and it should be a fun call.
Yeah.
I'm going to be moderating the call. So I'm going to be talking about what I do and answering questions if there are any, and providing information and support for any kids that are, sharing struggles or things. But I'm excited about this.
Yeah, certainly it'd be an interesting new experience for us to reach outside of our local area to put on a program for kids. So I'm very interested to see how that turns out.
Right.
So it'll be our first of many. How often are you planning those?
Right now, once a month, but I would love to make it every 2 weeks. So we'll see how it goes and how big the group gets. And I'm right now trying to promote that all over. So if you know of anyone whose kids are in need of connecting with others who are like them, and they don't have to be spiritually gifted. They might just be interested in those topics. They might have something, an experience they want to share. Feel free to contact me and bring them into the call. We'd love to have them.
Yeah, it'll be a virtual video class, right?
Yeah.
So everyone will be able to see each other and so on. Yeah.
Which is great for the kids.
So is it going to be instructional or interactive? So how's the class actually take place?
A little of both. These are teenagers for the most part, and they're very social, right? They love social media. They love to interact. So the goal is to really let them share their stories and things that are going on, but I'll be moderating. So I'm going to be working with what they're providing and what they're asking, and giving input and guidance from my perspective and my experience on how to connect with spirit, why we connect with spirit, any issues or problems that they're having that might be lower vibrational, and how do we raise our vibration. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of an introduction and a little bit of a lecture, but we don't want to bore them with too much lecture, because to be honest with you, in my experience with this group, they know a lot, and they come in with such knowledge. Clear channels for spirit. They have a lot of really high vibrational experiences to share. So I think it's always good to let them lead the topics, and then I kind of provide input on where it's needed. Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, lots of cool stuff planned in the near future. And our expo's in the spring in March, so come on out if you can join us for that. It's our third one. It's going to be in Michigan, and we'll have some incredible presenters in addition to the ones we've already lined up. And we have some other special projects planned too that we'll announce in the future, but they're not quite fully developed yet. So stay tuned for all of that. Did you want to maybe do some channeling now? Or?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so let's do that.
Okay.
And then, we'll just go with the flow and see where it takes us.
Okay. Greetings.
Greetings. Who are we speaking with?
I'm Ganesh.
Ganesh, is this the Ganesh that's in the Indian, as one of the Indian gods, that Ganesh?
Yes.
So why have you come through to us today? This is the first time I'm speaking with you.
Yes, we are pleased to step forward, and we wish to make you aware that there is not one, but there is many. And as I come through as a physical being through your interpretation or through your creative energy, you must understand that in the dimensional reality in which I am a part, there are many master beings, there are many connections of light beings who are in assistance of the planetary Earth in this time. And there is a congruent energy of ninth dimensional access that is being granted for this interaction.
I see. So what beings make up this collective?
There are many beings that make up this collective who are of ancient nature, many who are of a connection to races that are hybrid beings of reptilian nature, as well as reptilian DNA genetics. The reason for this is that the reptilian beings wish to come into an understanding that there is many miscommunications about the race that they are connected to. The consciousness that I work with is a facilitator, or we would call guardian consciousness of the planetary Earth's energy. We call ourselves guardians because we are a part of the universal time grid, and the universal time grid is the connection of one to all. As guardians, we choose to tap into the aspects of nature as a part of the one consciousness, and bring that understanding of nature through the human consciousness in such a way that it is reconnected to your structure and reconnected to the universal grid. But we have the ability through our consciousness to also connect with other beings of higher light. This is a portal of information, you may consider it. This portal of information is being now connected to a higher vibrational race of reptilian beings in order to present communications from them through us, so that there can be a balance of acceptance of this information.
Tell me more about Ganesh. Why is it? What are the origins of your presence in Indian folklore and so on, especially as an elephant type of god?
Well, the consciousness, as it was a part of the existence that I resided in, was one of higher dimension. So you must understand that as the Earth has transitioned through its timeline of evolution, there have been many changes here. And within the timeline that I am associated on your planetary being, I am a force of light, one that came as a soul transient, one that was deeply connected to Earth and the energetic natural sources of Earth. So although I am represented in animal form, we wish that you understand that that animal form comes from the very essence of the planet. It comes from the very essence of the Earth. When you think of animals as a source of nature or a source of consciousness, you can understand how they take the essence or the source of Earth into their being in order to sustain them. And as such, they become one with that part or that essence of the Earth. And that is my teaching. My teaching as a light being in this time is one of merging together the consciousness of the human race with its planetary being, which is nature in its fullest form.
Were you at what point in the Earth's evolution in terms of time, because we are human beings and we have this fixation with time, did you actually manifest into this reality? And was it just a vibrational manifestation or of your consciousness, or were you in physical form?
I, as in physical form, came as a light being. So there were many who would associate with connections of my physical body. Although I would say that my physical body, in essence, was manifested through my consciousness. So I am a light being of ninth dimensional Pleiadian genetics. My Pleiadian genetics are my lineage and my history. So as many of you hold souls, and those souls are fragmented into timelines of multi-dimension, you begin to understand that you associate with the DNA genetics of many timelines and races and experiences that create your makeup. Mine is very similar, although I had, in the point that I was existing in physical form on your earth, which is a part of your consciousness in a variety of timelines. But I want to say that in particular, the 1500s were a very significant timeline for my soul's evolution in connection with your planet. Although my essence, my light being, has presented itself on many timelines and many dimensional realities on your planetary being. And there are many who still connect with my energy in physical form. The physical form is something I want to explain because it takes many shapes and it takes many definitions. There are some that associate my energetic existence with the animal of the elephant being. And this is very suited for the consciousness here because the elephant being comes in great symbolism of its stability, of its strength, of its gentle nature, and of its connection to source. There are many forms that I have taken, some human, some animal, some nature, in order to heal the planetary being, in order to allow the human consciousness to remember its connection to the one source, God. And I will continue to do that going forward in my assignment. My connection with Pleiadian beings is a part of my existence as well on this planetary space, meaning there is a light body that travels through time, and this light body has assimilated information in a variety of existent forms. And this form in particular is the one that I connect with for my current assignment, and that is to remember the Earth home as a one connection, as God, as source.
Okay, so tell us about this message that the Reptilians want to convey to set the record straight.
Yes, and we are connecting with them now. And there are many. This reptilian race in particular is a hybrid race, and they wish for you to understand that all races, in essence, of reptilian nature are hybrid form in some reality. And that is because their race in the purest form is no longer existent. It suffered through a dimensional war in which it was not able to sustain its own energy body. It was taken offline from the energy grid of the universal fabric because of a variety of circumstances that were not allowing a direct link or a direct communication. This hybrid race in particular is one of ninth dimensional access as well. and they are here to bring in the information about healing. There are many misnomers about the reptilian breed upon your planet that are existing in a dimensional reality that is causing confusion. And they clearly want to allow the human consciousness to know that the reptilian beings in particular that are of ninth dimension are here in assistance. They are a high vibrational frequency of beings that are able to assist in many ways. They have a structure quite different from our own, and they are wanting to also reconnect us with nature and earth, which is the reason they come into this portal access of communication through me. The earth home in particular already holds the genetic basis for a variety of plant life that is connected to their genetics. You must know that many of these reptilian beings walked the planet Earth in physical form and have continued to visit your planetary home in both energetic and physical form. Through this interaction, there have been plants that have been modified genetically to adapt more to their frequency. And this is the way that they tune in to what is unveiling upon your planet and within the consciousness. There is a telepathic exchange or a connection between this hybrid race of reptilian beings and the human consciousness through nature, through trees, through plant life, through animals. And this is the way that they are able to access information. They are very privy to the conversation of the race of reptilians within the core of the Mother Earth Gaia planet. And they first want to make you intimately aware that there has been a telepathic disconnection of energy between that race that is residing within the core and this ninth dimensional collective we are speaking with, as well as many others. The reason being there has been a structural change that has taken place within the beings in the core of Mother Earth. This structural change has been an adaptive change to your density. So when we speak of a ninth dimensional reptilian race, you must know that this is a higher frequency of vibration than the race that exists within the core of Mother Earth. When they came to embody this home within your planetary space, they knew that the lower dense energies would modify their genetic structure in such a way that there would be a distinct change between their hybrid race and the others. And in that change, there would be a disconnection of interaction telepathically as well as energetically with these other hybrid races. There has been a quarantine, we would call it, of sorts, that is an energetic field that has been placed around this reptilian race in order to seclude or disconnect them from the universal time grid. This is the most important information that we want you to know today, because in the conversation of how this race is affecting your own genome, we want you to realize that there has been this quarantine energetically placed between them and the universal grid in order to maintain its integrity. So when we speak of guardians of the universe and we bring this collective consciousness to you, we wish for you to understand that this is a part of our role in implementing the exchange of energies through the council that is overseeing the universal frequencies. And as such, we are ones that work through the existent forms of nature in order to create this communication of receiving information, but not modifying the genetics or the underlying frequencies of the telepathic exchanges through the grid. What this means for you is that your Earth home has had somewhat of an incongruent connection to the grid in itself. And we've often discussed in or through many other collectives the splitting of the timelines on your planetary Earth. And the reason why the splitting of the timeline analogy in itself is quite important to the integrity of the grid. Because if there is a healing to take place on this planetary structure, there are a variety of things that must happen to release this this quarantine, or to release this field of energy in order to open the portals of healing between yourselves, your planet, and this race. This race that we speak of, the reptilian consciousness within the core, must be involved in the healing transition of the planetary Earth. This is because it is a part of her, just as you are a part of her. And there is a plan. There is a record that has been written by which this hybrid race of reptilian beings will be dimensionally blocked from your creation in the future as you accept this higher frequency. But the grid in itself becomes very vulnerable during this time frame, or during this timeline, for this very reason. You are integrated with your connections to Source, and you are integrated with Mother Gaia. You are also unaware that you are integrated with this consciousness. This lower vibrational reptilian consciousness has become a part of your race, both genetically and through your energy body. In order for you to heal the planet Earth, there must be a healing of this connection between you and this lower vibrational consciousness we speak of. And in order for that to happen, there must be an acknowledgement of this consciousness. The reason that this protective energy, or this protective barrier, is being released in this time through the council and through the guardians of the energy grid is so that the human consciousness can become more awakened to its own self, meaning the parts, or the fragmented parts of its own consciousness that exist as a part of this reptilian race. And as such, there becomes a great concern from our race and many others that the universal time grid may be jeopardized. This is because as you create two separate timelines here on Earth, this third dimensionally based timeline holds more frequency or more weight. And let us explain that for a moment. The density that you are purging here in this moment is quite great. And as Mother Earth raises her frequency and you adjust your structure to accept that new frequency and reconnect to her, you are holding far more weight, although we call weight different than density. We say you hold more of an emphasis upon this universal time grid, meaning your creations, your imprinted energy goes out in an expanded fashion through this grid. And if there are many on your planet or within your race that continue to choose this third dimensionally based timeline, there is now an open portal by which that third dimensionally based timeline can begin to affect other races, other planetary star systems, and galaxies. And this is in the form of frequency, this is in the form of information, and there can be a skewing of the ascension timeline because of this very activity. So what we are here to do today is to make you well aware of the predisposition of your genetic code to disengage or disassemble yourselves from this reptilian race in hybrid form that exists within the core of Mother Earth, and that it is quite possible through your frequency to do that, and that through that activity in connection with the self, you will begin to reestablish the timelines here that you wish to see. And although a third dimensional timeline may still exist here, the weight of that timeline comes into importance. Meaning, if there is a great number of the individuals within the human consciousness heading towards that third dimensional timeline, it would be quite difficult for us to encapsulate them into a quarantine. But if there are some, and we would not put this in numbers for you, we would say that this is a more of a mathematical consideration of the weights of frequencies and the timelines created. It would be possible for us to continue to quarantine that reptilian hybrid third dimensional race from the grid going forward in order to preserve the integrity of the entire ascension timeline. And we are here for that preservation, and we are very pleased.
Is there anything in particular that human beings need to do in order to disengage from this lower vibrational reptilian consciousness?
Yes, we would like to describe in full the process of your healing, for it is quite great, and it is going to have a very expanded effect on the ascension of many other timelines and races. First, we want to make you well aware of a new genetic code that is being triggered in the coming months, and that is in the March to April time frame. And during that time frame, there are planetary alignments that have been a part of your record here that would engage the structure in a very succinct way. There is a structure or a code within Mother Gaia, and there's a structure and a code within your unique system or your unique structure. These codes in themselves are light frequencies. They are magnetically or electromagnetically charged, and they are coming into an alignment with solar energies in such a way that they are opening a new access. So if you think of these ascension codes as portals, and you think of these solar energies as being the triggers for the opening of these portals, that is exactly what will be happening in this alignment, as it has happened with many others. However, there is a very succinct genetic code, a very specific genetic code that all of you hold. And it is your connection to Mother Earth Gaia. It is the one code within her that it is within you. So we want to explain codes for a minute so that you have a complete understanding of this. These ascension codes within your structure are a variety of kinds and light-based frequencies. Some of those codes are very specific to your own soul, and you came here with a multidimensional soul and a plan and a record to serve. So when those codes are individually triggered through your alignments that hit your structure in a very specific way, you are receiving upgrades of frequency and you are receiving opportunities to ascend. You also have ascension codes that are collective in nature, meaning there is an electromagnetic frequency between those codes that are exactly similar between you and another. Those codes are triggered on a collective level, meaning your entire race receives a solar energy in which the electromagnetic frequency of the code is triggered and aligned, and there is a portal opened within the human consciousness. You have received many of these alignments in the past, and they have assisted in the raise of consciousness here. You also have a code that is very unique to your structure and very similar to the structure of Mother Earth. This is what grounds you here. This is what keeps you connected to her in such a way that you create a one consciousness. Every race, and this is where the ancients are stepping in to explain this further and are very pleased. Every race, every dimensional reality holds within it a structural code connected to a star system or a dimensional home. That dimensional home is energetic, so it may not be physical. In some cases, it may be an energetic field. In some, it may be a star system, a star line, it may be a planet. And within your code, you have accepted through your soul physical reality here in this incarnation, and you were given the code to connect to Mother Earth. It is the same code that she has for many reasons, because you are a part of her and she is a part of you. You ground through your chakra fields into her in order to exist here in one congruent energy. That one congruent energy has been taken offline, and we have discussed that in many communications, and many of you are aware that that oneness has been disconnected. But the alignment of solar magnitude that is coming in the March alignment is specifically triggering this code within your structure. It is remembering that code that is within her, and it is directly aligned with that code. As such, it will align with her code as well, which is similar to your own. So what is beginning to happen here, my friends, is your structure is coming back online to remember your connections to Mother Earth, to remember that there is a flow of energy and information that you are receiving through her. And through her is how you access universal energies. We often talk about the upper and lower chakras, the root chakra connecting to earth and the higher chakras connecting to the higher self and the universal energies. But unless there is a connection forged between you and earth, these energies cannot flow freely, and they cannot expand and ascend with the rest of the universe. So in other words, if you are disconnected from earth and your codes are not aligning with her own, you are blocked in your DNA genetic from universal information. You are held in resistance to opening the portals of universal information. And this is why it is so critical in this time that this alignment is coming, because it is going to reconnect your code with hers, and it is going to allow you this expanded access to universal consciousness. This is why we are saying that this alignment in particular will be one of great magnitude, in which the human consciousness is going to be holding and connecting to a new frequency. We have discussed that in the past months there has been a raise in her frequency, in her resonance, and that has been difficult for your structure to adapt to. This is because that code has yet to be triggered. And as you have been trying to fall into a harmonious rhythm, many of you have experienced the physical effects or abnormalities of this disharmony. This is where the physical body will again fall into harmony with the connection to earth. And many of you who have been struggling much with your physical form will begin to feel balance. Although this will not be without an adjustment period, we would say, as any transition must have a adjustment period in which the electromagnetic fields within the structure of the human body are firing and reconnecting in a new way. That is where you are right now. The physical body, in essence, is holding a new frequency, yet the magnetics of the structure have not completely connected to that new frequency. It is quite different and harsh and higher vibrational than what your structure is used to. So in this alignment, think of the transition being the electromagnetic fields within the human structure now connecting to and adapting to this new and higher frequency through this connection.
Am I still speaking with the ancients right now?
Yes.
So could you, I know you came through to us at the last event that we did, and but for the sake of this show and the viewers of the show who are unfamiliar, can you tell us who are the ancients?
Yes, we are pleased. We are an ancient Mayan culture. There are many who have existed in physical form on your planetary space. Ones who were connecting with the gods, ones who were connecting with earth energies through the gods in order to interpret information and bring harmony to the space of your planetary Earth. We are now here for this transition in order to assist, and this is through your connection of nature. We are holding much information genetically about your structure, as it is a part of nature and it is a part of this planetary being that we wish to share.
So when you say you're of Mayan origin, are you saying that you once had physical manifestation on Earth as the origins of the Mayan civilization, or was it more of a consciousness that you projected?
There are many within our consciousness that hold a deep connection to a physical experience within the Mayan culture. And that physical experience was one of leaders, was one of chief, was one of tribe facilitator, meaning there were ceremonies that were held through and with us in order to better understand the natural effects of the physical body on our energy fields. We are also quite responsible for the construction or the energetic construction of portals on your planetary space, in which there was an exchange or a telepathic exchange of information between the gods and the planetary being.
Well, I think it's very fascinating to a lot of us who we wonder about some of these ancient structures that were built in the various Mayan cities around the world. But we have no, other than a few writings, we have no real evidence as to what Mayan culture and civilization was like. So can you maybe give us, paint a little picture for us as to what was it like? What was Mayan civilization like? What was the culture like?
Yes, we are pleased. So as you are well aware, the planetary Earth has undergone many changes, and our culture existed in a higher dimensional state, meaning that our culture was within a sixth dimensional space on your planetary being. And as such, we had a higher energetic capacity to connect with races off planet. These races were spoken of or connected to as gods, meaning they were our teachers of the time. And as these teachers brought information, we were able to better understand the natural sources of energy on the planetary being and how to tap into those natural sources of energy in order to build a bridge or forge a bridge between our culture and many others. These cultures were races, yes, outside of your planet, in which we benefited from the interaction. Not only from a standpoint of construction of these portals, which have been of much benefit to your planetary space and continue to be, but also for our own culture and our own people. There was an continued telepathic exchange between ourselves and many higher races in such a way that we were able to tap into the inner consciousness of healing. We were able to communicate directly with your planetary being as source and understand the patterns of weather, understand the patterns of time, understand the patterns of vibration, and how to bring those together into our culture in order to use them for the future of humanity. That is why our souls as a culture chose to exist on your planetary being in a specific dimensional reality. You see, every culture on your planet is imprinting their genetics or imprinting their lineage on this planetary space. And in that imprint holds information and an opportunity by which the human consciousness is meant to ascend. There is no random visitation of cultures, of souls, of higher dimensional beings. It is all for a grander purpose, and it is one for the benefit of the highest frequency here. And that is why our culture existed, and that is why it came.
So when you say portals, are you referring to, and you said the portals are still of benefit to us, are you referring to the pyramids and such, or what are these portals?
Yes, we would say there are many pyramidal structures that we are referring to, but there are also structures underground that are portals of energy. These in particular are the highest of the vibrations. The pyramidal structures we will take first. Yes, they were built within a time frame of the dimensional reality of 6 weight, meaning there was a telepathic exchange between higher beings of dimensional reality and our culture and many others to come together and be able to create these vibrational structures. These vibrational structures are unique yet the same in that each one has a very specific purpose, and each one aligns with a planetary energy in such a way that facilitates ascension. However, in addition to that, their purpose as a one or as a similar structure is to create a portal access of telepathic energy, meaning there is an availability of information informational exchange between races outside of the planetary structure and your own. The problem is this telepathic exchange has been one way to this point. For many, for we would say the majority of those on the planetary being, because the consciousness that has been manipulated here has not allowed you to benefit from this exchange in a two-way fashion. But the Mayan culture in particular was quite able to receive in a two-way fashion this information through these portal channels. We call them portals because many of you would also wish to believe that they can be physical portals for the appearance of energetic beings. And we would agree with that, but we would like to define that further and say that they create the space or the energy for the exchange of frequency, meaning there becomes a balance within the space in which these structures are built, in which an exchange is quite easy of frequency. So if there is a higher vibrational being that wishes to receive information or wishes to assist in some way on your planetary structure, they're able to use this portal energy in alignment with the planetary energies to manipulate consciousness or to manipulate frequency in such a way that a physical form or a physical body could be created. Many races do not require this type of exchange in order to visit your planetary space, but in essence, it is available to them. We would also like to reiterate the underground sources of energy that exist on your planetary being as portals. And many of these are high energetic frequencies in which there is a resonance of circular motion. And that circular motion in itself holds a code. These were not created, we would say, by the Mayan culture, nor were they created by anyone on your planetary being in conjunction with other races. They exist because of Mother Gaia's structure. And her structure was created in line with universal energies and frequencies. So these portals in particular are natural sources of energetic frequency exchange, in which there is a window, an opening in which beings can regress their dimensional frequency into a lower state. And in that state, they are able to come into a deep understanding of the Earth experience.
And so these pyramids, for example, that were built, they didn't serve any other function for human beings. I know a lot of people believe that they were there as tools for human ascension and so on. So are you saying that they exist purely for the sake of bridging the Earth's vibration with other races?
We would say no, that would not be correct, that would be the only reason by which they would exist, because as portals of energy, you must understand that there is an exchange of frequency. It is not just an exchange of frequency from higher dimensional beings. It is an exchange of frequency from universal energies. So yes, we would say that as a tool of ascension, they were a part of the plan in order to bring the planetary being as well as the human consciousness to a higher state of frequency. Any frequency is able to be exchanged through these structures. It is informational, it is light-coded, and it is available through these structures in alignment with very succinct planetary alignments.
Is there any benefit to human beings to going to these structures and physically being inside of them?
We would say most definitely there is a frequency that exists there that is a part of your being. When a human being is accessing these energies, whether they be in the portals within Mother Earth or whether they be portals within these pyramidal structures, you are aligning your frequency in such a way that it is within the universal energies of congruent source. We should talk about source. We wish to define that for you because as we are tuned into nature, we consider nature to be source. You often don't think of nature on your planet as being something universal. You think of it as being very specific. to your planetary structure. And yes, there are many forms of nature on other planets that are quite unique and different as well. But nature on your planet is universe in motion. Nature on your planet holds universal information. And this universal information is held within you. You are a part of it. You must be. You were created from it. The problem is, my friends, that the structure you hold is blocking you from accessing that information. So what is happening within these areas of portal access is you are coming into an alignment with Source. This is a 0-point frequency. This is an energetic exchange between you and the universe, in which all portal doors within the human structure become open. And in that moment in time, there is a vibrational shift of frequency. So anyone who has experienced these planetary bodies of pyramidal structure or frequencies within Mother Earth that are natural sources of energy have been forever changed. They have allowed themselves new access to universal information in such a way that they were able to step onto a new timeline. And that timeline was one of expansion.
And how did you build these pyramids? Were they conventional archaeologists believe that pyramids were built using pulleys and rope and logs and with human slaves who toiled for many decades to build these things, but were they in fact built in a physical way or some other way?
We would say it was a combination, yes, of physical and energetic means. So your story that is being told on the planetary space is not correct. They were not slaves. No one was driven outside of their will or intention in order to connect with these energies and construct these pyramidal forms. In fact, we would say that every human being that was a part of their construction was holding a higher frequency of love and light. And they would not have been able, if they were solely based within the third dimensional physical reality, to be able to assist in this collective exchange. So when we say it is physical and non-physical, we wish to explain. There were deep connections between many cultures and the gods, those we call higher dimensional races. And the higher dimensional races were allowing us to raise our frequency and raise our consciousness in physical form. As such, we held a different form of manifestation here, a different form of creation through our energy, where your human consciousness is quite in tune to creating through the physical means. There is an idea, and perhaps that idea is led to you in an energetic fashion, but you must carry that idea out in a physical manner with physical tools and your physical body. In the higher dimensional realities, such as the one that we existed in, where there is an exchange between universal energies and races, there is the ability to create through the energy in a different way, to manifest through energy in a different way. Much of this was done collectively through consciousness, meaning there was group meditations that were held in connection with higher dimensional races, and there was creation made telepathically through those creations, or through those interactions, we should say. We realize this would be difficult for you to believe or understand, but in many of these ceremonial interactions, there was a visioning of the structure as complete. And as the culture would awake from sleeping hours the next morning, there would be progress made on these structures that was very physical in form, but not seen with the naked eye or experienced in this dimensional reality. When you are bringing two dimensions together into one, meaning these are portal areas of exchange where higher dimensions are working within the physical experience, there are many unique ways that matter can be formed. And in fact, matter was formed in this way.
Was the Mayan race in any way connected with Atlantis or Lemuria or High Brazil or any of those other known ancient civilizations?
We would say yes. High Brazil in particular was one that we were connected to. We were connected with all races in our culture. We were honoring of all races in our culture. But this High Brazil you speak of in particular is a timeline that was presented to us, one in which we were quite aware of, would be a part of the culture and a part of the understanding of the human consciousness. And it was directly related to the portal access that we were working on. The beings in particular that are a part of that dimensional timeline are quite different than the human consciousness in physical form, although they did exist here in physical form. These beings are ancient Atlantean beings that step forward to allow you to understand how this dimensional timeline existed. And these ancient Atlantean beings have a very unique relationship with the timeline that you speak of. It was one in which there was a culture of peace, one in which there was a culture connected to the higher gods. It brought in for the human consciousness an opportunity of ascension. But because the human consciousness was directly taken offline through its structure, you must understand many dimensional realities, such as the ones you speak of, no longer were able to exist here. Although they existed within the structure of Mother Earth and presented an opportunity to the human consciousness to, in physical form, to experience, the consciousness here was manipulated in such a way that those realities were not experienced by all.
Does High Brazil still exist in physical form?
It is not existing in physical form. It is existing energetically on a timeline off planet.
Now, in recent months, there have been some things going on in the news about a city appearing above China in sort of a holographic or other dimensional state. A lot of people claim they've seen this other city floating above the city, actually. Can you talk about that? What is actually happening there, or is it even happening?
Yes, so the ancients step back in to answer this question, and we are very aware of this anomaly as it has been happening on your planetary being. We want to explain that as the human consciousness is undergoing a transition, there have been many structural changes as we brought forward previously. Those structural changes are not electromagnetically connected, but there is a new frequency that you are holding here, both through Mother Gaia and through your structure. This new frequency is allowing the human consciousness to tap into altered states of dimensional reality. And this dimensional reality that is being tapped into is a future timeline. It is a future timeline of this specific region, as it has been also seen in other dimensional realities as an existing timeline. And it is an opportunity by which the human consciousness will begin to see its multidimensional self. And this is what is happening here. There are fragmented parts of your creation as a one consciousness. Let us discuss that for a minute, and then we will bring it back around to the meaning of this ancient city that you are seeing. As a human consciousness, as a one, you are a one soul. And your one soul functions much similarly to the one soul within your physical body. You have a soul that is fragmented into many parts multidimensionally, and those parts are congruently working on a variety of timelines in this very moment. The human consciousness as a one soul is creating as well the opportunity for many dimensional timelines and many roads of existence. And many of you, through your connection to the one, are now beginning to tap into those creations. And that is what has happened here. It is happening especially during times of higher solar activity. And that is what we most want you to know. Is if you are to pay attention to when the human consciousness is beginning to view these aspects or these timelines that they have created, there are high enough solar magnetized energy waves coming to the physical structure to electromagnetically wire them to this new frequency. And we don't wish for the human consciousness to be in a state of fear over this, because if you are to consider that when those electromagnetic wires become grounded, you will have chaos. That is not the case, and that is not what we wish for you to understand. What you will receive is more information. So very similarly to a light bulb that is not screwed in all the way, the light will flash on and off. It is the same way that the human consciousness is focusing or functioning, we should say, within the structure that is not transitioned yet. It is a light bulb that is turning on and off. And oftentimes that light bulb is showing up in physical form in order for us to envision an aspect of ourselves, an aspect of the one soul that we have created here, a timeline. And in envisioning that timeline, it is calling to that fragmented part to reintegrate it to the one. Anytime that you are receiving multidimensional information, especially as a singular being as well as a human consciousness, it is calling for integration. And that is what we wish for you most to understand. Human beings have associated themselves with past, present, and future timelines. And many of you have the ability to recall these timelines and understand them as a part of yourselves. But they are looked at as quite separate. They are looked at as a place and time in which you no longer exist, when in reality, they are actually a part of your being in this moment and must be integrated in order to be fully transitioned to this higher dimensional being you wish to be. What this means for you, and we keep going back to this analogy, is expanded information. As you integrate the parts of the self, the parts of the one soul, the parts of the entire human consciousness that you have created here, it is allowing you more access to information and more opportunities to exist upon timelines in which are to your choosing and which are to your pleasing.
I'd like to talk a bit about the events that have happened recently in Paris. With reference to the reptilian race you've been speaking about at the center of the earth, is it that consciousness that's somehow been involved and through some of these families on the planet that we refer to as the Illuminati? Was this an orchestrated event? Or can you tell us more about that?
Yes, we are pleased, and we wish to explain this in great detail. When you say orchestrated event, first and foremost, we would like you to acknowledge that you are placing your awareness or your attention in the third dimension in a very physically based interpretation of this event. And as you do that, you are placing yourself in a state of resistance through that interpretation. Because in essence, every experience that you have, every creation within your existence is energetic at its core base. It shows up for you in physical form because you interpret it that way. So let us talk about this event and how these events that are similar are taking place upon your planet. Yes, we have mentioned there is a lower vibrational consciousness within the core of Mother Earth, and that lower vibrational consciousness holds a structure that is quite different than your own. This structure in particular does not hold an emotional body and does not hold the ability to manifest in the same way that you manifest. Their manifestation is taken through the mental body and is not available to them in physical form. As such, they have taken root here or taken home here in anticipation of allowing the frequencies of your consciousness and your Mother Earth to assist them in their manifestation process. This manifestation is also very tied to their reproduction, and it's also tied to the continued evolution of their race. Now, there is a lineage or a DNA genetic structure or code on your planet that is existent in many of the families that you speak of. That DNA genetic code is very similar to the code that you hold. It is just a very unique tie to this reptilian consciousness. There are hybrids in all forms that exist on your planetary being. These hybrids, in essence, are you, and you connect to many races through your DNA genetics that you are sometimes unaware of. This family in particular held a direct lineage, and their DNA genetic was assembled in such a way that their reptilian home came into a strong part of their energy body when this consciousness embodied the planet Earth. And it is through their connection to the planet Earth and through the consciousness of this lower vibrational reptilian race, that this genetic predisposition was turned on, we should say, or enlightened. When this genetic predisposition was engaged, there was a code that was also triggered within the structure of this family. As such, they began to also create through their energy body without the connection of an emotional body. So manifestation for them became detached from their emotional vibration and completely rooted in their mental body as connected to physical form. When the mental body is directly connected to physical form without the integration of the spiritual and emotional selves, there is no opportunity for higher frequency to benefit the actions. There is no longer a conscience, and there is no longer a beneficial use of the brain and the electromagnetic function of the brain, that is to connect through the heart chakra every human being as one. This is the basic core reason why many of these activities have been engaged. Now, is this family, or is this consciousness you speak of, aware of their actions as they are manifesting on the planet? First, we would like to say that they are not aware of the detriment that they are causing. This is because of the lack of the emotional body. But you also must understand that it is through their connection to you that these events and these happenings on your planet are created. And again, it is unbeknownst to many of you through the structure how this is happening. This consciousness in particular, the hybrid race we speak of in the core of Mother Earth as connected to many of these families and the lineage that we have spoken of, they are also connected to you through the heart chakra, through Mother Earth, and using your emotional body as the catalyst for frequency. Since they do not adapt to frequencies here in the same way that you do, and since they do not have the availability of an emotional body, they must use energy in its highest form through the emotions of the consciousness here. So has the activity that you speak of, the one in Paris, been created directly in order to bring the human consciousness to a lower state? Or was the human consciousness brought to a lower state in such a way that frequency created its likeness? This is what we want you to consider. From our perspective, as energetic beings, we would like you to be intimately aware of the power of creation that you hold, and how many of the human beings within your one collective are not aware of the power of their consciousness in terms of its own creation. The events that you are seeing take place on the planet are not as literal as you think they are being planned or structured. They are forming within the consciousness as a mirror to itself, meaning the frequency that is held here in a dominant fashion at any moment is creating a timeline. And in that timeline, there is a magnitude of frequency that is its equivalent. And this is why many of you are experiencing these events on your planetary being. In saying this, we also want you to realize that the planet Earth herself has codes of ascension that are now being transversed. And through the transition she is walking, these codes are releasing density that must manifest as well. So in other words, it is a double-edged sword here that is a part of your existence. It is the human consciousness creating through its energy body, unbeknownst to itself, And it is the Earth's being purging density at the exact same time as many of these planetary alignments have been triggering codes of ascension. It makes for a soup of electromagnetic energy that is quite intense, we would say. And that is why you are seeing much of this play out on your physical planet. The way in which to reverse this, or the way in which to hold the highest frequency to change this, is to adopt a new way of thinking about your existence. First and foremost, placing your attention on your creative energy as it is a source of your emotions is a very important exercise, because you have the gift of an emotional body in which to use as your first acknowledgement of how you are holding frequency. And if every human being on the planet were to take complete and total responsibility for the frequency that they hold through the emotional body, there could be a change in moments. That is the power of your creative energy. So if you are holding emotion in anger to the very people that have created this event, so you say, that frequency is setting up the recipe for the manifestation of more of its likeness. So we would highly recommend that the human consciousness consider the emotional body as an advanced tool. As you transition into a fifth dimensional consciousness, this emotional body will become more integrated into your energy field. And as it does, you will be holding a new form of manifestation here that is highly beneficial and one that is in line with the one soul and the love frequency. That is where the planet will begin to heal. And that is where you are headed now.
I'd like to communicate with a representative or a vibration of the consciousness of the hybrid children who have been part of the hybrid program that with reference to the interview I just did with Bridget Nielsen. And who am I speaking with?
I have a collective here of children. I have one that steps forward who is a young boy.
And what is the makeup of this young boy?
Reptilian hybrid in nature.
Reptilian human or reptilian in some other race?
Reptilian human hybrid.
Okay. Does this being have a name or something he'd like to be referred to?
He says you can call him Jonathan.
Okay, Jonathan. Thank you for joining us today. Can you tell us about the this hybrid program? I did an interview just recently with Bridget Nielsen, but can you shed a little bit more light into who are the children in this collective and what's the nature of this consciousness?
Yes, so we would be pleased to bring this information forward for you today, and there are many who step forward and are very pleased to discuss this. We wish to come forward. We wish for you to know of who we are. We are in great support of the transition on your planet and in much anticipation of coming to meet many of you. There are many, yes, who have been created through your likeness and through your energy with higher dimensional vibrational beings, and we consider ourselves in connection with you at all times. As we have been given great gifts of telepathic energy, we experience your planet in new and interesting ways. We are able to see it through what we call a long telescope of vision or inner sight. And through that long telescope of inner vision and inner sight, we're able to interact with you in nature, interact with your animals and your physical expressions of existence. We are coming from a variety of areas, but there are 3 collectives in particular that hold similar genetics. There are many races that we have been birthed through or with that keep us in a very unique structure, or give us a very unique aspect of our existence. But there are three existing waves, or three existing collectives of us that are fragmented by time and dimension and space. And we connect with each other in much anticipation and much plan of coming forward into your awareness. We I am one who is stepping forward from the first collective group of children. And I am much like many of the children on your planetary being. You have a variety of children that are coming onto your planet that are birthed as hybrids in this very moment. You must know. This is, you are unaware in many situations that this is happening, and you label these children with very bright colors and rainbow essence. And in our world, we consider them brothers and sisters because they are a part of our reality as well. So those of us who come forward into the first phase of enlightenment, meaning as your planet raises its frequency and opens its portal energies to our existence, we are very similar to your own children. We hold a very high energy body. We are able to connect outside of our collective into many other dimensional areas. We have a very deep connection with not only the fairy realm, but the nature associated with your planet, the natural streams, the natural sources of water and light and energy and frequency. And it is our vision and our hope to bring the reconnection of the one consciousness together. We consider ourselves as the ambassadors of connection between your race and many others, since we are the hybrid form of genetics in physical existence. We embody that love, that connection of the one, and that is why we plan to come, is to reunite you with your home, reunite you with your sisters and brothers and those within this dimensional reality.
When you said that there are children being born on Earth that are hybrid, are you referring to human children that have hybrid extra or multidimensional genetics, or are there actual physical hybrid children being born that we have not been aware of?
It is both, but we would say for the most part, the genetics are the predisposed part of the structure that is coming forward as expanded. There are some, yes, who embody a hybrid birth with a physical form of genetic basis on your planet. There are some hybrid beings that walk your planet in physical form that are reproducing with other human beings. But we are specifically speaking of the collectives you call the rainbow children, the collectives you call the indigos, the one that you bring much color around the auric fields. These are the ones that have the energetic predisposition of higher light. These are the ones that come in connected to universal energies that we speak of.
You said you're looking forward to meeting us soon. Does that mean that beings such as yourselves, being reptilian and human, that at some point in the future you are going to physically interact with human beings currently on Earth?
That is our wish and that is our plan, but there is a variety of things that must fall into place in order for that to occur. So we consider it the free will of the human consciousness to decide to connect with us in physical form or energetic. We have a great desire to experience your planet in physical form, although we know that we would hold a much higher energy than what could feel comfortable on your planetary space. And there would be much adjustment that would have to go on before we were able to exist in physical form with you, alongside you. And that adjustment would come in the way of frequency modifications as raises of the consciousness Specifically on your planet, the forms of food and the forms of water that are available would not be suitable to our energetic makeup. And the decisions regarding this plan are not only to our decision. There is a two-way exchange or a two-part equation to how the human consciousness will receive us. And that is through the free will of their own choosing and through our ability to step into these energies in a more comfortable fashion.
So are you essentially saying that, are you referring to the shift in consciousness to the fifth dimension that has to take place first before you can join us in a physical manifestation, or is it something else?
Yes, we would say that that would be of the highest benefit of the plan in order for the human consciousness to hold a higher dimensional reality on your planetary space to allow us to tap into your energy field. But we also want to make you aware that as you have an individual structure, there are many individuals on the planet who are able to connect with us in physical form or energetic form based on where they hold their dimensional rate of speed. The consciousness of the planet, as it is able to shift and change, is providing for us the opportunity to come in physical form. It is our free will to also manifest in physical form as we so choose. But we are looking more towards a sixth dimensional consciousness being held on your planetary space before it would enable us to manifest in physical form. This is because our structures hold a likeness to the sixth dimension in many ways. And that dimensional reality is of a higher frequency that would enable us to adjust, especially within the heart center. The adaptation of our physical form has to be connected through the heart center, not only of our structure, but of your structure as well. And we would see that the sixth dimension would provide a likeness for that.
Well, in the human current timeline, that would be quite a ways off into the future, correct? Because we are still just shifting into the fifth.
Yes, we would say that is true if you are looking at timelines in linear numbers of years. There are many opportunities in which the human consciousness has to accelerate at an expanded pace. And that pace is different in our measurement than it is in yours.
I see. Do you have any message that you'd like to convey to us that you haven't already said before we finish?
We are in full support of the reuniting of our consciousness with your own. But as we look down and we see many of the children being born on your planet, we wish for you to understand that we have a deep connection with those children. And they are our playmates in energetic form, and many of them are able to connect with us telepathically through their energy body. We enjoy much play with them and much interaction and exchange with them as they come in with this higher dimensional consciousness to connect with our own. So understand that as you are raising these children, we are in deep understanding of their needs and deep understanding of how they are experiencing the discomfort of that resonance that we speak of the love field, and how it is disconnected from the human race. So we are asking for compassion for many of you who are existing in physical form with these children, who are in great support of these children, to bring understanding to them in this time of energetic shift and change, and understand that they are coming forward through your energy body in order to assist on the planet in this time, and we are pleased to connect with them as well.
Thank you. So how was that for you? Some different consciousnesses there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you have a knack for bringing this out of me. Yeah, that was a really interesting channel.
What was it like to connect to the children?
It was really cool. So I saw them all come running, like when they want to communicate. That's what I would say I took away from that. when you brought that up, it's like they come running. They want to talk. And then this young boy stepped forward, and he had very large ears and dark hair. And I kind of saw like, I wouldn't say scales like reptilian scales, but, you know, kind of a scaly, different textured skin on him. But they have this need to communicate. It was very urgent, but really exciting. You know, like it was so exciting. Like, oh, we get to talk. You know, that's what I experienced from them.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the more interesting channels I think we've done on this show.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was kind of listening in the background, kind of.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thank you. Thank you again for joining me today and spending some time and enlightening our audience with all that cool information.
Yeah.
So we'll see you again maybe in another month, and we'll maybe delve a little bit more deeply and maybe even bring the children back to
Great. Yeah, I'd love to do
more.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us for another episode of Wake and Empower TV. Join us next week as I speak with another incredible individual who's standing on a leading edge and changing the world.